Today, we're diving deep into a film that's truly one of a kind, Roberto Benigni's 1997 masterpiece, Life is Beautiful. It's a movie that did something pretty daring. It tried to find light in one of the darkest chapters of human history.
And it all starts with a question that honestly feels almost impossible to answer. How on earth can you make a film about the Holocaust that's also a comedy? That single, powerful question is exactly what Life is Beautiful sets out to explore. So let's get into it and see just how Benigni pulled off this incredible tragic comedy.
First up, let's talk about the story on screen. It's all built around a promise, a father's promise to his son that is just absolutely unbreakable. So we meet Guido Orefici. He's this incredibly charming, funny, Jewish-Italian bookshop owner who just sees joy everywhere. His whole world revolves around his wife Dora, who he calls his princess, and their beautiful life together, even as this terrible darkness is starting to creep in at the edges. And then, the war shatters everything. Guido and his little boy, Giosuè, are taken to a concentration camp. And it's right there, in that unimaginable place, that Guido makes this absolutely radical choice. To protect his son's innocence, he's going to pretend that the entire nightmare is just a game.
And this is the core of his whole plan, this incredible contrast he creates. For his son, the rules are simple. You gotta earn 1,000 points. No crying, no complaining. And the grand prize? A real tank. But for Guido, the reality is forced labor, starvation, and constant death. His imagination becomes the only shield he has.
And he commits to this game all the way to the very, very end. Right before the camp is liberated, Guido is marched off to be executed. But even in those last moments, he catches his son's eye and he winks, still playing the game, making sure that his son's hope stays alive even if he can't.
But a story this powerful, it doesn't just appear out of thin air. The story behind the screen is just as important, and it's built on some really profound real-life events.
So you have to wonder, right? Was this incredible story of resilience just a work of fiction? Well, the answer is kinda yes and kinda no.
The film's emotional core was actually inspired by two true stories. The first was the story of Rubino Romeo Salmoni, a survivor who wrote about using dark humor to get through Auschwitz. And the second, incredibly, was Benigni's own father, who used humor to tell his son about his own terrible time in a labor camp, shielding him from the full horror.
And the person who wove all of these threads together was one man, Roberto Benigni. And his commitment was just total. He didn't just take on one job for this movie, he took on 3 massive roles.
First, as the director, he was the visionary. He had to walk this impossibly thin line between comedy and soul-crushing tragedy.
Then, as the co-writer, he was the architect. He built the story from the ground up and invented the very game that would become its heart.
And finally, as the lead actor, he was the heart. He poured everything into his performance as Guido, and it won him an Oscar and became absolutely unforgettable.
So, with that kind of singular vision and passion, what happened? Well, the film didn't just find an audience, it became a true global phenomenon.
I mean, the result was a film that just stunned the world. It ended up taking home 3 of the most important awards in all of cinema. It won the Academy Award for Best Foreign Language Film, of course, but it also won for Best Actor for Benigni himself and for Nicola Piovani's beautiful, haunting score. Just an incredible achievement. Okay, but even with all that praise, the central idea of the film, a comedy about the Holocaust, well, that sparked a really serious and important debate.
People were really divided. On one hand, you had so many who called it a masterpiece, a powerful testament to hope. But on the other side, some critics felt that using comedy, no matter how well-intentioned, trivialized the suffering of the Holocaust. They argued it presented a kind of sanitized version of the camps that didn't show the full, grim reality.
So with all that debate swirling around it, why are we still talking about this film? Why does it continue to hit so hard, decades later?
I think a huge part of its power is captured in the symbol of the tank. For Giosuè, it's just the prize, right? The thing that helps him get through the game. But when that real American tank rolls in at the end, it becomes so much more. It's the ultimate proof that his father's sacrifice worked. The game was real, his father's love won.
And this quote just gets right to the heart of it. Guido isn't just playing a game, he's teaching his son the ultimate lesson in how to survive. He's basically weaponizing his own perspective, using it as a shield against utter despair.
When you boil it all down, the film's legacy is just how bold it was.
It completely redefined how we tell stories about tragic history. It proved that you can confront darkness not just with sadness, but with love, with humor, and with a human spirit that just refuses to break.
Which really leaves us with one final thought to chew on. In a world that is determined to crush the human spirit, could it be that the simple act of imagination is the most powerful form of defiance we have?